Ladies and gentlemen, let's face it, Americans are not the brightest bunch anymore. We live in a country where people can name more fast food chains than Supreme Court justices, more TV judges than amendments in the Bill of Rights, and more brands of potato chips than U.S. states. People are fat, lazy, and distracted, and the people in charge wouldn't have it any other way. Because here's the dirty little secret. The owners of this country, the big corporations, the money interests, the politicians they own, they don't want an educated population. They don't want people capable of critical thinking. They want obedient workers, people just smart enough to run the machines and just dumb enough to accept their lousy paychecks, shrinking benefits, disappearing pensions, and the fact that their jobs are being shipped overseas. And Americans buy into it. They sit in front of their televisions, mesmerized by mindless entertainment, reality shows and shopping channels too distracted to notice their freedoms disappearing one by one. Instead of questioning power, they argue about celebrity gossip, sports teams, and which fast food burger is best. The result? A population that's overweight, undereducated, and over-entertained. You want proof? Just look around. Half the people don't vote, and the ones who do are usually voting against their own interests. People believe campaign slogans, sound bites, and advertisements more than facts or reason. That's what happens in a culture built on consumption and distraction. A culture that doesn't encourage thinking but rewards ignorance. And the worst part, Americans are proud of being dumb. They brag about not reading books, about not knowing geography, about not caring what's going on in the world. They wrap it in patriotism, like it's un-American to be informed. Well, that's the system, folks. Keep the people stupid, keep them obedient, and keep them distracted. So yes, America has a lot of dumb people, but it's not an accident. That's by design. When you look at the way society is structured, it becomes clear that intelligence has never been the primary goal. The people at the top, the ones who own the banks, the corporations, the media, and the politicians, have designed a system that rewards obedience far more than it rewards intelligence. It's not an accident. It's not a mistake. It's the result of decades of shaping institutions to make sure that people don't question authority, don't think too deeply about their place in the world, and don't develop the ability to change it. What they want is not a population of thinkers, but a population of doers, workers who will clock in, follow orders, consume products, and never make too much noise about how badly they're being exploited. Take a look at the education system. It's often praised as a cornerstone of democracy, but in reality it functions more like a training camp for compliance. From the moment children enter school, they are taught to sit down, be quiet, memorize facts, and regurgitate them on command. Creativity is discouraged, independent thought is frowned upon, and questioning authority is punished. Schools rarely teach children how to think critically, how to analyze information, or how to challenge systems of power. Instead, they drill into them the importance of rules, obedience, and conformity. Bells ring to tell them when to move. Teachers grade them based on standardized tests, and any deviation from the norm is treated as a problem to be corrected. That's not education, it's conditioning. And once you condition people to follow instructions without asking why, you have the perfect workforce for a society built on profit. Corporations don't want employees who question the ethics of their business practices or who might push back against unfair treatment. They want workers who are just smart enough to run the machines and just dumb enough to accept their lousy pay, as Carlin put it. They want people who will sit in traffic for 2 hours a day, show up to a job they hate, push paper or press buttons, and then go home and drown themselves in television, alcohol, and junk food so they're too tired to resist. Intelligence doesn't serve that system, obedience does. You can see this same logic in the way information is controlled. The media doesn't prioritize informing the public. It prioritizes shaping public opinion in ways that maintain the status quo. News coverage is dominated by sound bites, slogans, and superficial stories designed to keep people entertained or outraged, but rarely informed. Complex issues are simplified into black and white narratives. Critical voices are marginalized, and the endless repetition of slogans creates a population that believes what it's told without ever examining the evidence. The goal is not to educate, but to distract, to pacify, to keep people docile. A truly informed population would be dangerous to the ruling class because informed people would demand accountability. It's the same with politics. Every few years, Americans are given the illusion of choice: vote for the red team or the blue team, Pepsi or Coke, but both are owned by the same interest. Candidates are selected, groomed, and funded by wealthy donors long before the people get a chance to choose them. The debates are more like reality TV shows than serious discussions of policy. The sound bites are carefully crafted to appeal to emotions rather than reason. And the entire system is flooded with money to ensure that only candidates who serve the wealthy have a real chance of winning. This isn't democracy, it's theater. And theater works best when the audience isn't thinking too hard about the script. The workplace, the media, the political system, they all reinforce the same lesson. Don't question authority, don't ask difficult questions, don't think for yourself. Just do as you're told, accept the story you've been given, and keep moving along. Intelligence in this context is a liability. Critical thinking is a threat. Obedience is the safest, most profitable path for those in power, and so obedience is what the system rewards. Think about how society treats those who deviate from the script. Whistleblowers are punished, not praised. Activists are surveilled and demonized, not celebrated. Workers who question unfair practices are fired or blacklisted. Students who ask uncomfortable questions are labeled troublemakers. Journalists who dig too deeply into government or corporate corruption are silenced or ignored. At every level, the message is the same. Obedience is safe, obedience is rewarded, and questioning authority comes with consequences. Even consumer culture is designed to reinforce obedience. Advertising doesn't encourage you to think, it encourages you to buy. Billboards, commercials, and digital ads bombard people with messages every day, telling them what to wear, what to eat, what to drive, what to believe. The endless repetition of slogans and jingles trains people to equate consumption with happiness, obedience with success. Buy this product, follow this trend, adopt this lifestyle, and you'll fit in. Thinking critically about whether any of it is necessary or meaningful would only hurt the system, so it's discouraged. People are taught to measure their worth, not by their intelligence, but by their compliance with consumer culture. And what's the result of all this conditioning? A population that is largely incapable of independent thought. A population that accepts low wages, poor health care, endless wars, and a decaying environment without ever demanding real change. A population that is too busy working, shopping, and being entertained to notice that their freedoms are slipping away. People have been trained to believe that their only role in society is to work, consume, and obey. That's not a bug in the system. It's the system working exactly as designed. When you step back and look at the big picture, it's almost elegant in its cruelty. The schools prepare children to follow rules. The media keeps adults distracted and misinformed. The workplace enforces obedience through fear of losing a paycheck. The political system gives the illusion of choice without ever allowing real change. The consumer culture keeps people chasing after meaningless goals. And through it all, intelligence is punished while obedience is rewarded. The system doesn't need smart, thoughtful, critical people. It needs compliant, obedient ones. And unfortunately, that's exactly what it's been getting. When you look around at modern society, you see a culture drowning in distraction. People are bombarded from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to sleep with noise, flashing lights, screens, advertisements, and entertainment designed to occupy their minds without ever nourishing them. It's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. It's deliberate. Because the last thing those in charge want is a population that has the time or clarity to think about what's really happening. A distracted public is a passive public, and passivity is what keeps the system running smoothly. Television was the first great tool of distraction, and it still plays a huge role. It provides endless hours of scripted drama, cheap reality shows, news programs that look more like game shows, and sports spectacles designed to keep people emotionally invested in things that don't matter. Americans spend thousands of hours a year staring at glowing boxes, watching other people live, while their own lives drift quietly by. And it's not just the content, it's the structure. Commercials are strategically placed to interrupt thought, to train people's attention spans to be short, shallow, and unfocused. Instead of concentrating on ideas, viewers are taught to respond to stimulation. A sound, a logo, a joke, an explosion, a laugh track. People become conditioned to consume images without reflection. The rise of digital technology has only intensified this. Smartphones, social media, streaming services, all of it is designed to capture attention and never let it go. Every app, every notification, every algorithm is built to keep people scrolling, clicking, liking, and sharing. And what are they consuming? More distractions, gossip, viral videos, memes, arguments about celebrities, endless feeds of trivial content that may feel important in the moment but evaporates seconds later. People check their phones dozens, sometimes hundreds of times a day, unable to go more than a few minutes without the little dopamine hit of stimulation. It creates a society addicted to distraction, a population too restless and overstimulated to sit quietly and think. Entertainment isn't just a harmless pastime, it's a tool of control. Bread and circuses, the Romans called it. Keep the people entertained, keep them fed, and they won't revolt. Today, the bread comes in the form of cheap fast food and endless consumer goods, while the circuses come in high definition, streaming 24/7 directly into your pocket. People are so consumed by distractions that they don't notice the walls closing in around them. They don't notice that wages are stagnating, that healthcare is unaffordable, that privacy is disappearing, that freedoms are being eroded. They're too busy keeping up with the latest season of a show, the latest viral trend, the latest celebrity scandal. It's all noise designed to keep them looking the other way. Sports are another powerful distraction. Stadiums filled with screaming fans, millions glued to televisions, endless hours of analysis, statistics, and commentary. There's nothing inherently wrong with enjoying a game, but the obsession goes far beyond enjoyment. Entire communities live and die by the outcomes of games that have no real impact on their lives. People know more about the batting averages of strangers than they do about the laws being passed in their own states. Politicians and corporations love sports for a reason. It channels energy, passion, and frustration into something harmless. Instead of demanding justice or reform, people argue about which millionaire athlete is the best. Instead of questioning why they can't afford health care, they spend their money on tickets, jerseys, and cable packages. It's misdirection, pure and simple. Consumerism itself is part of the distraction machine. People are trained from birth to seek happiness in products, to measure their worth by what they own, to see shopping as therapy. Every advertisement, every billboard, every commercial is a reminder that you are incomplete without buying something. And so people spend their lives chasing the next purchase, the next gadget, the next upgrade, never stopping to ask why they feel so empty in the first place. Consumerism creates an endless cycle of distraction, where the solution to every problem is to buy more, and the problems themselves are never addressed. Even politics, which should be serious business, has been transformed into entertainment. Elections are treated like sporting events. Debates are staged like reality TV. News coverage focuses on personalities, scandals, and horse race narratives instead of policies or ideas. The public is encouraged to pick a team, red or blue, and cheer for them no matter what, as if democracy were just another football game. Complex issues are reduced to slogans, chants, and hashtags. People feel like they're participating by yelling at each other online, but in reality, they're just consuming another form of entertainment. It gives the illusion of engagement without the substance. Religion, too, has been commodified into a form of distraction. For many, it's no longer about deep reflection, morality, or spirituality, but about spectacle. Mega churches with concert lighting, preachers selling books and DVD, televangelists turning faith into a profitable brand. Instead of fostering critical thought about life, morality, and justice, religion often becomes another form of passive consumption, another weekly show to attend, another product to buy. It distracts from the real conditions of life, offering promises of salvation while ignoring systemic injustice. The beauty of distraction is that it doesn't just occupy time. It shapes thought. When people are constantly consuming shallow entertainment, their ability to think deeply atrophies. Attention spans shrink, memory weakens, patience disappears. People become accustomed to instant gratification, to the idea that everything should be easy, quick, and entertaining. That mindset makes it nearly impossible for them to grapple with the complex, messy realities of politics, economics, or social change. Instead of thinking critically, they look for easy answers, for slogans, for someone else to tell them what to believe. And while the public is distracted, those in power operate freely. Corporations lobby for deregulation. Banks exploit the economy. Politicians pass laws favoring the wealthy. Wars are fought overseas. Surveillance expands at home. And freedoms are chipped away little by little. Most people don't even notice because they're too busy binge-watching a show, scrolling through memes, or arguing online about the latest scandal. Distraction keeps them blind to the erosion of their own rights. It's easy to dismiss entertainment as harmless fun, but when entertainment dominates every waking moment, when distraction becomes the default state of existence, it stops being harmless. It becomes a prison without walls, a leash without chains. People voluntarily hand over their time, their attention, and their energy, leaving them with nothing left for resistance. They don't have to be silenced. The noise silences them. They don't have to be censored. The endless flood of triviality drowns out anything meaningful. That's the brilliance of distraction as a form of control. It doesn't feel like control. It feels like freedom. People believe they are choosing to watch, to scroll, to shop, to play. They don't realize the choice has already been made for them. They don't see that the very structure of society is built to keep them entertained, pacified, and too exhausted to resist. And so they keep consuming, keep distracting themselves, and keep living in a world where the truth is always just out of sight, buried beneath the noise. Ignorance in modern society isn't just tolerated, it's cultivated, celebrated, and rewarded. From the time people are young, they're surrounded by a culture that tells them it's perfectly fine not to know, not to ask, and not to care. In fact, it's more than fine. It's cool. It's patriotic. It's normal. The less you know, the more you fit in. The more you reject knowledge, the more you're praised for being a real. And when a society elevates ignorance to a virtue, what you end up with is a nation that brags about not reading books, that mocks intelligence, that distrusts expertise, and that worships mediocrity. That's not an accident. That's the result of decades of conditioning designed to keep people docile. Look at the way education is treated. Schools should be places where curiosity is nurtured, where critical thinking is developed, where young people are taught how to question and analyze. Yeah. Instead, schools are factories that stamp out obedience and punish curiosity. Children who ask too many questions are disrupted. Kids who think differently are labeled as slow or difficult. Teachers are pressured to teach to standardized tests, reducing education to a multiple-choice guessing game. Creativity, depth, and genuine inquiry are stifled in favor of memorization and conformity. By the time students leave the system, most of them have learned not to think too much, not to ask why, and not to challenge what they're told. They've learned that ignorance is safer than curiosity. No, and it doesn't stop there. Once people graduate, the culture around them reinforces the message. Popular entertainment glorifies stupidity. Sitcoms feature lovable idiots who stumble their way through life and are rewarded in the end. Reality shows highlight shallow drama, rewarding contestants for being outrageous rather than thoughtful. Social media platforms amplify the loudest, most emotional voices, not the most intelligent ones. In this environment, ignorance isn't just common, it's marketable. The dumber the content, the more clicks it gets and the more money it makes. Intelligence doesn't trend. Outrage and nonsense do. Even politics rewards ignorance. Candidates who speak in slogans, cliches, and simple phrases are more successful than those who try to explain complex issues. The public doesn't want nuance. It wants entertainment. Politicians know that if they appeal to emotion, if they play to ignorance, they'll win votes. So they deliberately simplify everything, leaving out inconvenient truths, spinning reality into something the public can digest without thought. An informed electorate would demand accountability, but an ignorant electorate is easy to manipulate. Ignorance, in that sense, is the fuel that keeps the political machine running. What makes this system so powerful is that people are not only encouraged to remain ignorant, they're actively praised for it. Think about how society treats intellectuals, scientists, or experts. They're often portrayed as out of touch, arrogant, or elitist. People are told that a common sense matters more than knowledge, that real Americans don't need experts to tell them how the world works. It becomes a badge of honor to reject expertise, to say, I don't need to read, I know what I feel. That kind of thinking doesn't challenge power. It strengthens it. Because once you've convinced people that knowledge is elitist and ignorance is patriotic, you can tell them anything, then they'll believe it. It's not just about what people don't know, it's about what they don't want to know. Ignorance becomes a kind of comfort. The truth is often painful, complicated, and difficult to process. It requires responsibility. It requires action. But ignorance is easy. If you don't know about corruption, you don't have to be angry about it. If you don't know about inequality, you don't have to do anything about it. If you don't know about wars, exploitation, or surveillance, you can sleep peacefully at night, convinced everything is fine. Ignorance becomes a shield, a way to protect yourself from uncomfortable truths. And the system encourages that because a comfortable population is a controllable population. You see this especially in how people take pride in their lack of knowledge. How many times have you heard someone brag about not reading books, not caring about politics, not knowing history? It's treated as if being uninformed is somehow more authentic, more relatable, more down to earth. Meanwhile, people who do care, who do study, who do question are often dismissed as nerds, know-it-alls, or troublemakers. Ignorance becomes the social norm, and intelligence becomes a liability. And the rewards for ignorance are everywhere. People who parrot simplistic ideas are rewarded with likes, shares, and followers online. Politicians who pander to ignorance are rewarded with power. Corporations that exploit ignorance are rewarded with profits. Entire industries thrive on keeping people uninformed. From advertising that sells unhealthy food by hiding the truth about its effects to media companies that churn out shallow headlines instead of real reporting. Ignorance is profitable, and so it is cultivated. The darker side of this culture is that it breeds a deep mistrust of truth itself. When people are trained to be ignorant, they lose the ability to distinguish fact from fiction. Conspiracy theories flourish. Lies spread faster than facts. People argue passionately about things they don't understand, and their ignorance makes them easy prey for manipulation. The less they know, the more certain they feel. And that certainty is a dangerous weapon in the hands of those who seek to control. When ignorance is rewarded, truth becomes irrelevant. And once truth is irrelevant, power has no limits. Ignorance also keeps people divided. Instead of understanding the real sources of their problems, economic exploitation, political corruption, systemic inequality, people are encouraged to blame each other. They fight over superficial differences, fueled by misinformation, while the real culprits remain untouched. The ignorant population spends its energy fighting itself instead of uniting against the forces that exploit them. Ignorance, in this sense, isn't just passive. It's weaponized. It keeps people too busy arguing about nonsense to notice their common struggle. The tragedy is that ignorance is preventable. Knowledge has never been more accessible. Books, information, history, data, it's all available to anyone with the will to seek it. But the system has succeeded in making sure that most people don't want it. Why spend time learning when you can be entertained? Why wrestle with complexity when you can consume simplicity? Why seek truth when ignorance is easier and comes with rewards? People are conditioned to choose the easy path, and the easy path is ignorance. So here we are in a society where ignorance is not just widespread but celebrated. A society where people wear it like a badge of honor, where being uninformed is seen as normal, and where those who dare to know more are dismissed or ridiculed. It's a culture designed to keep people docile, divided, and distracted, because the more ignorant the public is, the easier it is for the powerful to do whatever they want. And that's the point. Ignorance isn't just allowed, it's encouraged, because ignorance keeps the machine running smoothly. And that's the whole picture, folks. You've got a system that doesn't want thinkers, it wants workers. It doesn't want citizens, it wants consumers. It doesn't want people asking questions. It wants people following orders. So they train you early to obey, they drown you in noise to keep you passive. And then they pat you on the back for being stupid enough to accept it all. It's a beautiful scam, and the best part, you don't even have to force people to go along with it anymore. They'll line up for it, smile while it happens, and brag about how little they know. That's the brilliance of it. The cage is invisible. The leash is voluntary, and the ignorance is self-inflicted. So when you look around and wonder why the country feels broken, why nothing ever changes, why the same problems just keep recycling year after year, don't kid yourself. It's not by accident. It's by design. And as long as people keep obeying, keep distracting themselves, and keep celebrating their own ignorance, the owners of this place will never lose a minute of sleep.